Hey guys! That's called the schwa. It's a specific sound a YouTuber makes in order to get your ear to listen to them. It's a noise that I think we're built to hear, and that schwa is that sound. So this episode is about YouTubers. And so I'm going to be talking to you about one of my longitudinal studies, a study I've been doing literally since 2006 on YouTube. I'm a YouTube researcher. Yes, I'm also a meme researcher. That's what it's like to do new and digital media as research. And yes, I get paid to do research on the internet, which is crazy because if you told people that 15 years ago, they'd be like, that's stupid. It's still stupid, but now it's educational. At least I believe so. Either way, that's what this video is about. We're going to be learning a lot about YouTubers today, and we're going to be learning a lot about their techniques. And the reason for this is because at this point in the semester, we're transitioning into the different types of personalities that are becoming really effective in our current society and our culture. So your meme stuff was great because it tells us about like what memes are and how they can be employed educationally. And now we're going to be talking about YouTube. So first, I'm going to give you a short little brief history about how I got here, and then we're going to talk about what's coming up next. And your homework is a longer reading, something I actually wrote, and it's not like I'm making you read my book, but it's something that is important to the subject of YouTubers and the topic at hand in general, since this, of course, is more about cultural systems than it is about anything else. So my study started around 2006 at the advent of web television. And web television was really the beginning of alternative TV that responded to television and mainstream media. So at the time I was studying YouTube series like Chad Vader, The Guild, and a show called We Need Girlfriends. And so three of my really good friends actually made this show called We Need Girlfriends. That's its name, We Need Girlfriends. So you can imagine it wouldn't have been too popular on mainstream television. But at the time, it was a really big hit on YouTube. Now, it didn't get like millions of views. But what it did do is cohere an audience that was not really watching that on television. The New York Times, Stephanie Rosenblum, wrote an article in 2008 called The Beta Male's Charms. And that had a different connotation at the time. And the beta male's charms was basically characters that were made in opposition to the alpha characters on mainstream television. So Steve Zapelis, Angel Acevedo, and Brian Amiot actually made the show We Need Girlfriends in response to the show Entourage, a very popular show on HBO at the time, which focused on people who lived elite lifestyles that were untouchable. So web television shows like Chad Vader, which was Darth Vader's loser cousin who ran a supermarket, We Need Girlfriends, about three dudes who just got dumped just after college and had to get new girlfriends. And The Guild, which is Felicia Day's show, about a bunch of people who played in World of Warcraft guilds and met each other in real life. These were beta people who were secondary to the alpha characters that we watched on mainstream television. So that's around the time my theory started because I was a television major in college. And what I did as a TV major is I was trained how to make TV. So I was formerly a TV producer. I worked on reality shows and I did a lot of nonfiction programming. I was a digital journalist for a while, and I worked on the Weather Channel. Real exciting stuff. But when I left television, because honestly I burned up, when I left television I ended up thinking, well, how do I convert my television knowledge into something that's new and different? And web television happened to align exactly as I entered grad school back in 2006. And so I started that as my study. So my master's is on web television and postmodernism, but we're not going to talk about that. So my study then changed at around the year 2008 and 2009 when the platforms themselves shifted. And the big shift occurred in 2008 when YouTube introduced something called its partner program. Now you have to remember the very first video ever posted on YouTube, which you'll see in the reading, is called Me at the Zoo, and it's by Jawad Karim and Chad Hurley and Stephen Chen, the three founders of YouTube. It was posted on April 23rd, 2005. The very first video has Jawad Karim turning and facing the camera and making eye contact directly with the audience and saying something about the elephants in the background, that they have really long tusks. But the point is that he was able to speak directly to the camera and acknowledge that the fourth wall wasn't something that is the camera, but removing that barrier between authority, the person who would be originally here, and then somebody who would filter that information. So traditional TV would have a fourth wall, which meant that you couldn't speak directly to the audience. You would speak to the journalist off camera like this, or you would speak to another actor here and it would be directed in the scene. But vloggers speak directly to the audience, so they make it feel like you're much more connected to the person, which also in this class gives you a familiarity as if we can be connected to one another. And that's why your vlogs did a really phenomenal job of doing that. Your videos, I have to say, are the first semester I've had where nearly 100% of them were really good. To those who haven't handed theirs in, you have a high bar to jump. I don't know if it's because you've now learned these techniques or these aesthetics, that's an important word I'm going to be using, the aesthetics of YouTube that you've been watching over the course of these years that you're mimicking, or you've just naturally been attuned to media production and media speaking. But for the most part, you all made eye contact, you spoke clearly and confidently, and you talked about your subject with great authority. And that is how vloggers do their tricks. I don't think many of you did the schwa, the hey guys, the high-pitched tone that makes you hear me, but that doesn't matter. What did matter is that it seemed to me like you were confidently speaking directly into the camera. Now, I don't know how many of you got caught doing this, but sometimes that's the most embarrassing part about vlogging. I remember when I first started doing this, and I've only done this for educational purposes, but when I first started doing it, it was kind of weird that you would always be talking to, well, somebody who's not there, and people could probably hear you, like your parents or somebody, and you'd be like, oh, I'm just talking to my camera. But eventually you get this sense of confidence and you kind of figure out how to get past that. And you realize this isn't really that hard. And once you push past the idea of how uncomfortable this would be or even awkward, you start realizing that this technique is actually fairly easy to grapple with. So you guys did a really good job with that. But here's what's interesting. At around 2008 with the partner program, it realized there was a profit sharing model built into YouTube. YouTubers were able to split profits with the channel. They were able to make 55% while YouTube made 45%. To me, this was the big turning point in the platform. Upon doing so, they created like this idea that this could be a career, that the influencer could be invented, that somebody could work with the audience to influence their purchases and their decisions on marketable choices. And when we get to the marketing part of this class, you're going to see a lot more of how that actually happens. But as with everything, we're not going to talk about the cool sparkly stuff. We're going to go into what this actually leads to and what could happen as a result of influence, YouTube, and control, and how that can get out of control. So my long-term study, which I present at all the time, I actually present at Emerson. I'm presenting next Thursday at Emerson, and then I present usually once or twice a year at a conference. So Sunday I'm actually presenting on YouTube, Thursday at Emerson, and then I present 2 years in a row at Salzburg Global Seminar, Salzburg Academy on Media and Global Change. So what you're actually going to read is my translated to text version of my talk from 2017 for homework. This year's talk was kind of an adaptation on that because the subject was so similar. I'll probably rebuild it for next year. But what I talk about and what my long-term study is, I use the case study of Tyler Oakley. Now, if you don't know who Tyler Oakley is, you'll learn about him for homework. But he started by first speaking to himself or to his very close friends. He was basically making a video diary or talking to his friends that he missed after he left for college. When he noticed that a lot of people were giving him views for no reason, that he just sort of appeared, YouTube put him, at the time YouTube's front page was human controlled, and they basically put him on the front page. And in doing so, he became quite a popular YouTuber. Now that YouTubing became his type of skill. So videos 1 through 6 of Tyler Oakley's are actually put into private. And episode 7, Raindrops, which you'll see for homework. Remember to click on all the videos as you go down. Raindrops is his really first public video. But you're gonna notice a few aesthetic choices that he made inside that video. One thing that this video doesn't have, and some of yours did have, jump cuts. That style of cutting it doesn't really shorten the video. All it takes out is the ums, the buts, and the does. It basically compresses the video to control the time. If you practice well enough, you could go uncut, but still you should use the aesthetics of cutting the video because it is an aesthetic choice of YouTubers. The next thing is music. The music choices kind of make it so you could actually flow with the content. And the other one is the schwa, the voice. As long as it's sing-songy, we are naturally attracted to that type of thing. In fact, it's been proven that if you do that sing-songy voice in a crowd, people will look at you. So you could actually make people look a certain direction by turning your tonalities different. So there is an article, I'll include it, about the YouTube voice called the schwa, and that's the sound. And it really says, hey guys. You'll hear it in a lot of tones that YouTubers use. And it's by design. But these tools are accessible. they're not really foreign. They're not like you have to go through an agent or a manager. You don't have to pay somebody to help you get your material online. You simply need, well, what we have here, a cell phone, a recording device if possible, and a way to upload it. But that's it. If you were to make traditional television, you'd have to find yourself an agent, a manager, a script, a director, a package, go through the whole entire process of production, rewrites, and so forth and so on, all the way down the line until maybe, just maybe, you get your show on air. But in YouTube, you don't. You just simply have to record it, be confident, and talk to an audience who you think will listen. You. You're speaking directly to yourself about something that you truly believe in, and in theory, people will follow that exact thought. So that cuts us to the present. We've had a lot of issues, probably in the last 2 to 3 years, about what YouTubers have done and how much has changed within our media landscape. As authority has eroded over the course of time, we've turned to YouTubers and we've turned to alternative outlets and alternative media to afford us our authority. We learned this a while back with Giannis Crooms when he did his citizen journalism and took pictures of the downed plane in the Hudson. By doing so, he invented the idea of citizen journalism, just as Tyler Oakley invented the idea of the vlogger. All these concepts were aesthetic choices or changes based on what authority shifts we have. So you'll notice that this is a common thread and theme through the semester, that new media itself disrupts, that's a term we're going to be using, disrupts the common themes of authority and authority choices that we make as consumers, both media and product consumers, make in our lives. And it's really important to understand who we trust. Trust is a big thing. And what type of ways trust is transferred from the seller to the buyer, and so to speak. It's really consumption one way or another. You consume media as you consume products and you consume food. It's a diet. You have a diet of media. And you balance it sometimes with YouTube videos. But most recently, YouTubers have made changes that have crossed the lines directly into mainstream media. You'll see the articles inside of my writing about Pewdiepie and Jake Paul, that both in the summer of 2017 or even a little earlier, basically had some sort of ways of becoming more than their platform themselves. Pewdiepie, you might know, is the most expensive or one of the most profitable YouTube channels that is out there. I think in 2016, he reported earnings from YouTube and endorsements at $16 million. $16 million. That's his YouTube and product endorsement salary. So YouTubers make their money by getting checks from YouTube, and they get their plaques as rewards, but they also mostly get their awards and mostly make their income via endorsements. Their influence on their audience pays them. So for example, Tyler Oakley is sponsored by Taco Bell, Svedka Vodka, Disney, Target, and many, many others, Warby Parker, Audible. And I know for good reason that Audible pays him a fair amount of money to support. That's because they're aware that when he says the name audible.com or Warby Parker, people will likely make choices or purchasing options based on that. And if you don't believe me, see how many people still support Logan Paul. The Low Gang itself is a very passionate group of fans and followers that regardless of what Logan Paul does, they still stick around for him. Now, if you don't know who Logan Paul is, you live a better life than I do. But if you do, you understand what I'm talking about. You'll read a lot about Jake Paul in my article, but Logan Paul got in a lot of trouble in January for filming a person who committed suicide in the Japanese forest, and he posted it on his channel like an idiot. His blustering, ballsy attitude gives him even more attention, and that's really what his fans want. So he influences fans through both his personality and this outcome. Just recently, if you've been watching YouTube, Shane Dawson is doing a Paul's breakdown of this entire saga of all this amazing, this insider baseball story of YouTubers. It's really absolutely fascinating. There are a handful of Twitter channels directly connected to diagnosing how YouTubers themselves are their own force of cult of personality. And that's obviously proven. Absolutely sure, we know this happens in the United States. We understand cults of personality. I mean, Donald Trump was a former reality star. His mindset is an executive producer, so he knows ratings. So he knows how to work with the media really well. But that's not even close to where some other countries are touching with the internet influence. Italy, for example, has the 5-Star Movement, which is a political party started on the internet. And they used internet influence to kind of work their way directly into the government of people's lives because they stopped dealing with traditional political structures. And that's exactly kind of how Donald Trump won, is that he gave himself the idea. He didn't give himself the idea, but he actually represented the people that felt disenfranchised, that the traditional structures had ignored them, and he fulfilled that. The same thing goes for the 5-star movement. They found the disenfranchised and basically identified themselves as the influencer of that. Now the 5-star movement is collaborating with a group called the League, a far-right group, an extremely far-right group in Italy, and they are doing this very stronghold over the way that the government works in Italy at this moment. Shameless plug, if you're interested in the Italy trip in the spring, it's SAP 263 and it's Media Archaeology Rome. And shameless plug again, if you're interested, just email me. It's Friday mornings all semester and we go to Rome during spring break to go talk about this basically. But Rome will be a nice trip. That's not what this is about, but again, plug. Because I'm an influencer. I wish. No, I don't. I don't know. Here's where it gets a little weird. So just recently, if you have been keeping track of the news, Brazil's elections just happened. And in Brazil, they're most likely going to vote in a new president who not only finds himself as far right, but actually finds himself as a proponent of fascism, like a real fascist, somebody who really believes in that type of strong, extraordinarily radical right positioning that is completely fascist by design. Now here's the stranger part. One of the 3 people that are already voted in as deputies, 3 of them are influencers. Actual influencers have made their way to government. One of them is a YouTuber, a Brazilian YouTuber, is now a politician in Brazil. But it clearly shows that this method of populism, and what I mean is populism in its most literal sense. Populism is the platform in which the common person can be brought to the forefront. So YouTube itself is a populist platform. It takes you, the common person, you, and allows you to broadcast yourself. That was its original name. And in doing so, it takes away the borders and makes the populism part of its platform goals. And you'll read in my article that this is really by design. While YouTube may not have known the outcome back in 2008, this is now a decade later, of what their partner program would do, what ended up happening was this world of influence that has not just, I wouldn't even say, I can't even use the term it's eroded structures anymore, because what it's done is not eroded, but created brand new media structures around it. And these new media structures allow us to see authority in new ways. So what I want you to do for homework is fairly simple. After watching this video, you're going to take your usual quiz that lets me know you watched it. And then I want you to read the article, and I want you to watch all of the videos in it. You're going to have a response to that article. But one of the things I want you to respond to as far as this is concerned is I want to know, I'm going to ask you a handful of questions. There's going to be 2 responses total for this because YouTubers is a pretty big topic. Do you watch YouTubers, and what type of genre do you watch? Because YouTube itself has introduced new genres that don't exist in traditional media formats, like unboxing, haul videos. Those videos exist in the YouTube space. They don't exist on television. Maybe someday they will, but for now, genres have been born inside of YouTube spaces. And that's kind of amazing that there's brand new ways in which we could watch television or consume it. So I want to know if you have any YouTubers you like or you watch. Second, have you ever gotten advice from a YouTube channel? Like, have you ever looked something up in order to fix it, like change a tire or do something? Because that's an important aspect of what we see as authority. Because traditionally you would go to, well, let's say for a car example, you would go to a mechanic. But now if it's somewhere on the edge of fixable, you could YouTube it, look up the way of doing it, and potentially do it yourself, thereby giving yourself the authority or becoming empowered and to do so. Do you see where I'm going with this? That you could become empowered by the influencer. And in that way, they've made you feel good. So now it doesn't seem that far-fetched to understand how you could vote them into office, because they've already positioned themselves in that way. But it has some very, very dark sides to it. Because the question you might want to ask, and the thing that you're going to respond to after reading my article, is the influence real? Does this actually exist, or is this for profit? Is this a way that we know there's something authentic, or what is authenticity in that way? After reading the article, you'll have to reference back to some of the examples I give in that and try to answer that type of question. How do you know that this is authentic, and how do you know what is substantial or substance worthy as we go forward with YouTubers in general? It's a very different and changing world that you're living in. And it's important for us to understand that we have this power to not only use this platform to communicate with one another, but the power to influence another. And in doing so, that's a lot of power. And as Uncle Ben said, with great power comes great responsibility. I think a lot of people don't think about that too much, and they think this is just us talking to another thing. And you get swept up by the views and the excitement and the following, the fandom, but you don't realize how much power and influence you actually have. We have to take a step back sometime and realize that our creative endeavors are really important, but they're more than just creative endeavors. They're endeavors to make sure that we do best for everybody around us. Because if we stop and lose control of all of that, we start to weaken our structures, and in doing so, that division will tear us all down. So it's a lot of responsibility when you're just talking to a cell phone. But you have to keep that in the back of your mind. Now, you will be doing 2 more vlogs during the semester, and you've done a great job for the ones we've done so far. So I hope you keep that up. But take a look at the homework and do the long reading. But please make sure you click on the play on all the videos embedded in the video. And you don't have to press play on the later ones down at the bottom. There'll be a note for that. But read the entire article with videos because it's meant to be interpreted as an interactive writing piece. And until next time, bye guys!